concerns that people must have and to be demonstrating. And that's why I said earlier that it's important as we go forward for the international community to stay engaged with the government of Sudan in Khartoum and the government of Southern Sudan in Juba. Because these issues at the larger level have been addressed, but the internal democratic development issues will still remain an important set of arrangements that need to be addressed.
Thank you very much indeed. Live from Washington, Keith Jennings, specialist on Sudan.
Thank you.
To Mexico now, where 3 teenage boys have been shot dead in an apparent attack by gang members. Let's find out more by crossing over to Shihab Ratanzi, also in our Washington, D.C. News Center. Hi, Shihab.
Hi, Veronica. They were attacked at a car dealership in the Mexican border city of Juarez. A principal of a high school in the U.S. city of El Paso says that 2 of the boys were U.S. citizens who studied at his school. Ciudad Juarez has become a battleground for Mexico's drug gangs and Mexican authorities. Meanwhile, 2 Mexican Marines have been shot dead outside a shopping center in Tepic, the capital of Nayarit State. The Marines, who worked as bodyguards for a naval commander, were attacked on Monday by men carrying assault rifles. For more on both these incidents, we're joined from Mexico City by our correspondent, Frank Contreras. Frank, first, those teenagers, I would imagine they're going to get a bit more coverage than the usual daily death toll from Juarez. What more do we know about this?
The death toll is constant in Mexico. Day to day, death count continues to mount. Over the weekend, at least 23 people were killed across the country, Shihab. But this incident involving at least 3 teenagers is going to grab a lot of headlines on Tuesday. And tonight here in Mexico, people are mourning those deaths. As you reported there, we have confirmations now. At least 2 of those young men were from the United States. They were high school students in the border city of El Paso, Texas. They had crossed in with a friend into Ciudad Juarez, spending a pleasant, what they thought was a pleasant Saturday afternoon, having some lunch at a taco stand. They went over to this auto parts shop, looking into the possibility of buying some rims for a car, when a group of armed men showed up and decided to open fire. The armed men were apparently looking for the owner of that automobile shop. They didn't find him. They decided just to open fire in any case. And now the families of those dead teenagers say this was a case of mistaken identity.
And what more about these Marines who were killed?
In the case of the Marines, this took place in the Pacific coastal city of Nayarit, of Tepic, Nayarit, the state capital there. This is a place where an increasing amount of drug-related violence appears to be taking place. Since the year began, at the beginning of 2011, at least 45 people have been killed there in what appears to be drug-related violence. Monday's incident took place at a shopping center, a fairly crowded shopping center. Shihab, a white vehicle pulled into the parking lot there. It was carrying a high-ranking vice admiral, rear admiral in the Mexican Navy. He went into one of the restaurants there, but 2 of his bodyguards who stayed outside were the targets when gunmen drove by in a dark vehicle and decided to open fire, leaving these 2 bodyguards basically in pools of blood there. The vehicle was seen riddled with high-powered bullet shots, apparently from AK-47s, according to police. And people at the scene were completely struck by fear. You can imagine they were basically running for their lives and hid inside that shopping center for at least an hour, waiting for the all-clear sign. And this, of course, is a major blow against the Mexican Naval Marine area there, the elite forces that are involved in fighting drug violence. And I should say, Shihab, in that part of Mexico, there's been an increasing amount of drug-related violence, and the Mexican Marines are in part charged with trying to find some of the key leaders of those drug trafficking cartels. So that might be the reason why high-ranking naval officers here in Mexico are now being targeted.
Frank Contreras with the latest on President Calderon's war on drugs. Thank you. Online company AOL is buying the news website The Huffington Post for $315 million. It will be the website's largest acquisition since the company separated from Time Warner in 2009. The purchase, just the latest step AOL is taking in an attempt to regain its once dominant position in the online world. Al Jazeera's John Terrett reports.
The Huffington Post is one of the most powerful online publications of its kind, already among the top 10 global news sites. Not bad for a start-up just 6 years old. The Huffington Post has a small team that break their own stories, but its reputation has been built on trawling other news websites for headlines and exclusives and then publishing them all in one place on the Huffington Post.
You can send me anything, Ariana@HuffingtonPost.com.
The site gets its name from founder Ariana Huffington, the one-time Greek shipping heiress turned astute businesswoman who will join the board of AOL as part of the deal. By adding the Huffington Post to its growing stable of websites like MapQuest and the ultra-local news-based Patch.com, AOL is hoping to attract more eyeballs to its own struggling site.
I know there's going to be some speculation.
AOL's been having a tough time after it was dumped by Time Warner when their much-trumpeted merger from year 2000 fell apart. AOL's revenue from online commercials and dial-up connections shrank sharply in 2010, and it hopes that by building up its portfolio of websites like the Huffington Post, advertising cash will soon start flowing its way once again. John Terrett, Al Jazeera, Washington.
The AOL Huffington Post deal contributed to a boost for Wall Street, stocks continuing to rise. And on Monday, President Obama promised business leaders he'd reduce corporate taxes. But he is imploring companies not to move jobs overseas.
So the key to our success has never been just developing new ideas. It's also been making new products. So Intel pioneers the microchip, and then puts thousands to work building them in Silicon Valley. Henry Ford perfects the assembly line and then puts a generation to work in the factories of Detroit. That's how we built the largest middle class in the world.
President Obama. That's it for the moment from Washington. More from the Americas later, but let's return to Veronica in Doha.
Officials from North and South Korea have come together for the first dialogue between the two countries since September. South Korean delegates left for the border village of Panmunjom, where the military talks are being held. The meeting will lay the groundwork for higher-level dialogue, possibly between ministers. Tensions have been high on the Korean peninsula since the South accused the North of sinking its warship and killing 46 sailors last March. A separatist leader says he ordered the suicide bombing that killed 36 people at Russia's busiest airport last month. Speaking in a video carried by an Islamist website, Doku Umarov described the attack on Moscow's Domodedovo airport on January the 24th as a special operation directed against the Russian people and its Prime Minister Vladimir Putin. He added there'll be more attacks in pursuit of an independent Muslim state in Russia's Caucasus region. Neve Barker's in the Russian capital.
It's 2 weeks since the fatal bomb attack here at Domodedovo Airport. A bomb attack that exploited a key weakness in the airport's security, targeting perhaps the most vulnerable section of the airport, the arrivals hall. Well, since the bomb attack, airport security has only marginally improved. The investigatory body looking into the suicide bombing say that they have identified a 20-year-old individual from the troubled North Caucasus. The Federal Security Services, the FSB, say that they have arrested several, including some members of the suspected bomber's family. Meanwhile, the Kremlin's most wanted Islamist fighter, Doku Umarov, has appeared in a video. He has vowed a year of blood and tears. It's believed that the man to the right of Umarov could be the Domodedovo bomber. Umarov said the man was being sent to Moscow to carry out a special operation. Well, the Russian authorities haven't identified the man, but the Russian media say they have. They have named him as 20-year-old Magomed Yevloyev from Ingushetia, neighboring Chechnya in the North Caucasus. Of course, both Medvedev and Putin are only a year away from the presidential election that could see both running head-to-head for the leadership. The suicide bombing here at Domodedovo is very much seen as a chance for both to show off their leadership skills. All sides are now waiting from the official response from the investigatory body. They will present their findings to the lower house of parliament, the Duma, later on Tuesday.
WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange faces the second day of an extradition hearing in the UK on Tuesday. He's wanted for questioning in Sweden over accusations of sexual assault. His defence lawyer believes it will be a, quote, flagrant denial of justice if the extradition goes ahead. Lawrence Lee reports.
Arriving at court, Julian Assange looked relaxed and less tense than he sometimes does, surrounded by high-profile celebrities, human rights supporters, and urged on by a group of young protesters who see the dark hand of the CIA behind this rape case. His team had tried to steal a march on the prosecutors by publishing his defence against the allegations online, all very WikiLeaks.